Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on Storm Kieran that is arriving as I speak, and we'll be bringing the strongest winds in around 6 to 12 hours time as I'm recording this through the early to mid-morning period for southwest England and southeast England, with many other areas across southern England also seeing significant impacts, but just not quite as severe as those areas in the southwest and the southeast. Now, this will only be a quick update as we will run through exactly what is going on with Storm Kieran. If you're interested more in a longer term outlook, then we will be putting a video out tomorrow, having a look at that in more detail, or Thursday afternoon to evening, depending on when you're watching this. So we'll run through the latest from the live radar. We'll look at the various weather warnings as we have got widespread amber warnings issued that have been updated today. And then we'll have a look at probably the two best short-range runs, looking at the latest UKV and the latest Rome runs as well, looking at the precipitation and the wind gusts for the next couple of days. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Apologies, this video is coming in a couple hours later than usual. Had a bit of a busy evening this evening, so I haven't been able to do the update, but we've got it out now, and we'll be able to have a look at it at Storm Kieran as it is moving in. Now on the live radar you can see the weather fronts associated with Storm Kieran now are moving in, and you can see where the centre of the low is now, just off the coast of Cornwall. The strongest winds for southwest England will be on its western edge, so the rainfall and the area of the low pressure is well off the radar at the moment. So the strongest winds are actually across parts of the just generally southern coastal areas. On the southern and western flank of this system is where the most severe winds will be, wrapping around to the southeast of England through tomorrow morning. You can see all the heavy rain associated with this low moving in, and there have even been reports this evening of people watching the satellite imagery and the water vapour imagery that a sting jet could be forming. Now, I'm no expert on sting jets. There are things that do occur in very deep areas of low pressure that do go through cyclogenesis, and they do happen, every now and again. They're not that rare, but they're not an every storm sort of occurrence. Now, again, we won't get into the details about it, but essentially it is an area similar to a sort of line convection where we see severe impacts in a very small area. For a sting jet, we see similar, very severe impacts where we could see those wind gusts go 10, 20 miles per hour over what is forecasted. Now, the sting jet is very unlikely to impact the UK, as it's going to be on the southern edge of the system, which is going to impact the Channel Islands and northwest France. So that's why we won't really look at it in too much detail, but just to be aware of that, as that could bring locally 110 or 120 mile per hour gusts, which is quite a bit more than the forecasted 100 mile per hour gusts for those northern coasts of France and the Channel Islands at the moment. But just highlighting how intense Storm Kieran is through this evening and how intense it will be widely into tomorrow. You see the strong convection around the centre of the low. That's going to be much of the rainfall through tomorrow, as the initial weather front's actually going to clear the big impact areas by sunrise tomorrow. It's going to be these heavy, thundery convective showers that really push in. Now, I said I'm recording this quite late in the evening, around 10 p.m. And if we do have a look at, I want to put the latest wind on. Again, these are wind speeds, not wind gusts. So sustained wind speeds, you can see already up to around the 30 or 40 mile per hour point. You see the very strong winds are starting to arrive on the western edge of northern France. And we'd expect over the next few hours to see this rapidly increase for darker blues and even some purples showing up on that southern edge as we head through the rest of this evening. Now remember, these are wind gusts. These are wind speeds, not the wind gusts. The gusts are going to be 10, 20, 30 miles per hour higher than sustained winds, or even locally more than that. Now, if you look at the latest weather warnings for Storm Kieran, you can see we've got widespread warnings issued for tomorrow. We won't have a look at the warnings for this evening, as they just wrap around into tomorrow, and we'll look at them for tomorrow here. If we do start further northwards, this is rain warning from tomorrow at 6 a.m. until Friday. This is for the weather front that eventually moves out into the North Sea and then kind of wraps around into eastern parts of England and Scotland as the system kind of lingers. It fills in, so the winds do die down, but it lingers, and that's going to give some very heavy rain in the east. Yellow warning for this. It's relatively high impact but very low likelihood, as it is uncertain exactly where that weather front will pivot and sort of stall. But we could see 20 to 30 millimetres widely along the east coast, locally 40 to 60 millimetres. Now further southwards we've got a widespread rain warning as we've got heavy rain moving in tonight, and this has been issued as of 6 p.m. today and expires tomorrow evening. Again, the heaviest, most persistent rain will clear by sunrise, but we're likely to see heavy, thundery showers, 20 to 30 millimetres quite widely, as much as 40 to 60 millimetres is likely as is possible in places. Could see 80 to 100 millimetres over higher ground, and again with loads of fallen leaves, drains being blocked, trees coming down, branches coming down, and the generally saturated conditions, there is the risk that we could see flooding. Now we've got the widespread yellow wind warning. This covers most of southern England really, and South Wales, and it comes into force only an hour ago. So remember, even though Storm Kieran's weather fronts are arriving, these strongest winds are still a number of hours away. They're only started to ramp up. The yellow warning has only just come into force, and it expires at midnight tomorrow night. 50 to 60 miles per hour widely inland, as high as 70 miles per hour in the few exposed areas, and of course 70, 80, maybe even 90 miles per hour. But those are more specific for the amber warnings. You can see here, separate amber warnings are issued for these areas. So if we look at the first amber warning, this starts in about 4.5 hours time as I'm recording this, 4.5, 5 hours time, and expires at 11 a.m. So the strongest winds are going to be around sort of sunrise tomorrow morning into sort of the commute, so it could be very disruptive for southwest England. I do think this is really the bullseye. Yes, southeast England has got amber warning, but I do think the strongest winds will likely be in southwest England and will come very far inland. We're looking at widely 70 to 80 miles per hour, gusts inland of 65 to 75, a few coastal areas 85, and there could be sort of an anomaly in there with maybe 90, 95, somewhere really exposed. Again, officially, it'll be very difficult to say exactly what the strongest winds will be, as of course the Met Office and Environmental Agency only have a limited number of sites. Of course, we'll probably hear of some personal weather stations showing 100 and 110 miles per hour, which always happens when we have one of these systems. And again, it could be true, but it could also be a sort of erroneous data coming from that station. So we'll have to see, but roughly we're looking at maybe 90 or 100 miles per hour for the tip top, but widely 70 to 80. You can see it's high impact, still rising in likelihood. I'm surprised it hasn't actually increased in its impact matrix. Have a look at the latest models as we see in a minute. But it's almost too late now to sort of change the warnings, as you know, these strong winds only come in sort of 5-6 hours time. Most people are going to go to bed now or in the very near future. So yeah, there's no real time to upgrade the warnings, but I do think it actually probably should be, maybe even to a red across southwest England. Southeast England's probably more warranted for an amber, and it's 6 a.m. tomorrow until 5 p.m. It's actually lingering much longer into the day. So yes, southwest England likely to see these strongest winds, but the more perhaps impactful winds for people's sort of daily lives will be across the southeast probably. Here, again, 70 to 80 miles per hour, maybe 85. I don't think we'll see quite as high top wind gusts. I think maybe here only 80 or 90, not maybe in the 90 to 100. I know that sounds kind of trivial, but at these sort of wind speeds, 10 miles per hour makes a big difference. Again, high impact, lower likelihood. But I do think, even though these are the same on the impact matrix, the southwest is very much more going to be impacted by this than the southeast. I do think the southwest are going to see widely stronger wind gusts and going to see higher wind gusts in sort of the peak of this system, and we'll be able to have a look at that in detail in a minute when we have a look at the latest models. And then finally, we've got that rain warning that goes into Friday. I do think there is the potential for more upgrades for warnings through Friday and Saturday, as we are going to see more unsettled weather move in. Now, if we do have a look at the latest UKV, you can see Storm Kieran moving in at the moment with the heavy rain. And you can see on its southern edges where we're going to see the strongest winds, but also on its eastern and southeastern flanks through the early hours. And you can see here in this back edge band that's not even on radar range, as we saw a couple of minutes ago, that is where we're going to see the most severe winds for the southwest around the 5, 6, 7 a.m. and the southeast equally going to be seeing some severe winds. You see where the centre of the low is, where we're not seeing any rotation. around this little area, pretty much passing through the Isle of Wight. There could be a period of time, if you are up through the early hours of the morning, where there are very strong winds, goes silent, dead quiet for a couple of hours, and then the winds pick up. Very similar to the sort of the eye of the hurricane, just not quite as drastic and severe, of course. Now, the system will eventually move further northwards and eastwards as we do progress through Thursday. And here, again, we're starting to see that rainfall move in. As I said, tomorrow, much of the day is going to be heavy showers, thundery showers, as you can see here. Not too much in terms of persistent rain. Some areas may see persistent rain, especially across North Wales and maybe eastern England and into Scotland. But most areas can be very blustery and showery as we do progress through Thursday. We're going to see that rain push southwards once again and just linger in places as we head into early hours of Friday. And then for Friday, it should slowly clear before we see more rain move in as we see another low pressure system that's relatively deep but just not quite as strong winds, and then more unsettled weather into the weekend. Now, if you have a look at the wind gusts, you can see Storm Kieran arriving through this evening. The wind gusts really peaking around the early hours of the morning. You can see why I say southwest England going to be more impactful, as you can see those purples go straight through southwest England here. Of course, dropping up a little bit further inland because of the resistance of higher ground, buildings, etc. But the southeast, you can see the purples are close, but they don't come quite as far inland. That's why I think the southwest is going to see the more widespread severe winds. You see the strongest, though, where we potentially could see a sting jet across the Channel Islands and northern France, only 50, 100 miles away. But luckily it's sparing much of southern England here of those 100-mile-per-hour winds that could have moved in, and some models were showing a couple of days ago. As we do progress through Thursday morning, those winds will die down in the southwest and die down slightly in the southeast, but then we could see another round of very strong winds through the afternoon, and they'll actually come further inland. So if you are across central England, the Midlands, North Wales, East Anglia and the London area, your strongest winds will probably be tomorrow afternoon around the 2, 3, 4 p.m. point. We're looking at widely 50 miles per hour here, maybe locally 60 or even a sort of anomalous 70 in places. So yeah, if you wake up tomorrow and don't think what storm, especially if you are further north through parts of sort of central England, the storm for you will probably only be really arriving in terms of the gusty winds through tomorrow afternoon. Eventually, if all the winds do die down and fill in, but as we head into Friday and Saturday, we could see some gusty winds arrive once again for southern areas, but again, we're looking here at maybe 40 to 60 miles per hour. Now, after you finish on the latest arome run, we'll just have a look at the wind gusts here, as I don't want the video to go on for too long. But you can see Storm Kieran arriving, very strong winds on its eastern flank at the moment, but nothing too severe. But you can see it's around that sort of 2, 3 a.m. point. We see the very strong winds arrive for southeast England, very severe in places. But then the strongest winds, you can see the blacks coming inland here across southwest England. And we're looking here at 80, 90, 100 mile per hour winds, even stronger than the UKV was showing. Southeast England still very strong, even extending towards London and East Anglia, but not the blacks and greys appearing across southwest England. Eventually, those stronger winds stay out in the channel, but as I said, as we head into Thursday afternoon, some of those purples do come further inland, pink come further inland, and we could be seeing here 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts quite widely across much of England and Wales before it starts to wind down. So Storm Kieran is a very severe system. Luckily, the most severe impacts are not impacting the British Isles. It's impacting the Channel Islands and northern France, but we are still seeing some severe impacts across the southwest and the southeast, and just not as severe as it could have been and as widespread as it could have been if this system was 100 miles further northwards. So Storm Kieran, again, it's going to be a bit of a weird system because meteorologically and when we have a look at the charts, it's one of the strongest storms we've seen in sort of recent history. But hopefully through tomorrow, we don't remember it too much for its impacts, simply because most areas are not going to be seeing the ridiculous winds of amber and red warning strength. Yes, southwest England, southeast England are going to see it in places, but this is not as widespread as it could have been. And we are, luckily, in many areas being saved the worst impacts. Of course, southwest England would have got battered even more if that 100-mile-per-hour stretch was further northwards. So we have to remember that as well. But anyway, I do hope that everyone in the southwest England, southeast England, and even widely across England and Wales is prepared and has got contingencies in place as this storm, even though we're not going to see the most severe impacts from it, those are, as I said, going further southwards, it's still going to pack a punch and it's still going to be dangerous in places. So make sure you do stay safe out there over the next 24 hours, and I'll see you again for another video soon.